welcome to a brand new episode of Backstage with hashtag RDM right here on the Radio Random Network. And if you don't know who I am by now, I am hashtag RDM Russell Devin McLean. And if you're new to the program, thank you so much for hitting the play button on iHeartRadio, Stitcher Radio, SoundCloud, Spreaker, and very soon we will be debuting on Spotify. More on that later, but with all of that said, thank you so much for joining me here today. Got a great show for you. I'm not joined by just one guest. I'm joined by two guests. Today I'm going to be talking to the writer, director, and producer of The Girl in the Band, which is a great, great, great documentary about women of jazz. Miss Judy Chaikin will be joining me to talk about all of her new projects. And also our musical guest today is going to be Canadian-born country, rock, pop, singer, songwriter, recording artist, Mr. Billy Grime. He's going to be here to talk about his brand new album that's going to be released soon, Sugar and Spice, and all of his journeys in live entertainment and so much more. But with all of that said, guys, I'm excited. It's time to go. We're only one day removed from Fat Tuesday, also known as Mardi Gras, down here in South Louisiana. And with all of that said, happy Mardi Gras, happy Hump Day. It's time to rock and roll. So with all of that said, let's get the party started. Let's pay a few bills. Let's hear a song, and then we talk to Mr. Billy Grime and also Miss Judy Chaikin, right here on the Radio Random Network, right here on Backstage with hashtag RDM. We'll be right back. All right, featured song of the day is powered by Amazon. When you do your online shopping at Amazon, use our link, www.radiorandomnetwork.com/Amazon, to do all of your online shopping. And every time you use that link, radiorandomnetwork.com/Amazon, to do your online shopping with Amazon, they throw a little money back to us to help with production costs and all of that good stuff. With all of that said, today's song of the day is brought to you by Amazon, and the song of the day is by our musical guest, Mr. Billy Grime. The name of the song is A Picture of Me and You. You can find out more information about Billy's brand new album that's going to be coming out soon and all of his latest projects by visiting www.billygrime.com. And with all of that said, you can find all links talked about on today's show and the show notes. So let's not waste any more time. Here it is, A Picture of Me and You by Billy Grime. When we come back, we'll be talking to the man himself, Mr. Billy Grime. He is Canadian-born singer-songwriter, doing a lot of great things. We're going to talk about it all right here. I'm talking to none other than Mr. Billy Grime. So, Billy, what's been happening, man?
And the boys, we got. I have a 5-piece band. We usually tour the bars and the venues, whatnot. We also have an acoustic act actually that we do just for a more intimate setting. So we've been playing a lot and promoting our album, and at the same time also busy with working on our 4th album. So we're no dull moments in our lives.
Wow, so you're 3 albums in, you're working on your 4th album. So you've been doing this for a while, I think that's safe to say.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
That's awesome. Now let's talk about when did music, suck you in? When did you decide to do all this stuff for a profession, my friend?
I was very young. This is the only thing I've always wanted to do. I started singing in a church choir at the age of 8, and I never looked back. You know, I just like to sing a lot. I used to always sing solo, so I kind of like the limelight a little bit, I would say. But writing was something that I always enjoyed and loved, and it's part of me. So it's like part of my body. You know, I can't get away from it. So I haven't looked back. I just I had my first band when I was 13 years old and in high school, and here we are.
Yes, indeed. Now, your first album, you got. Let's talk a little bit about the first album, and then we'll fast forward here to the present and the things you got going on today. What was the inspiration behind the first album?
Well, my first album was called Understanding, and it was produced by Marco Luciani, who actually is Juno Award winner. Actually, he wrote a song Overload in the movie Dirty Dancing with Alfredo Bacasta. And that was in my younger days, you know, when I had all the long hair and I was a hippie, I would say. I got older, you know, I thought, you know what, I got to do something back. Because I was very sick when I was young, and I decided to do a gospel album, and that was called A Little Piece of Heaven. And then here we are now, and I released Sugar and Cream, which is my third album. And this is more about, I guess, less hair and, older and wiser, I hope. But this is what, it's part of, I get my inspirations from things that have happened in my past, and I love it. I love it.
That is so awesome. Now, one song that I want to ask you about is one of your first singles off of Sugar and Cream, which is a pleasure to have met you, and which we'll hear that here in a few minutes for everybody listening. Give us a little insight behind the song and behind writing it and recording it.
But Pleasure to Have Met You is a song written about a friend that I've met, and you need to have that. You have to have that somebody, your soulmate. That one person that you could be driving down the street and you'd be smiling because you're thinking about that person and you can't wait to get that call. And that song was written about that person and the individual. Yeah, everybody has that person in their lives. It could be your wife, your husband, your boyfriend, whatever, or just a good friend. And you probably talk 2-3 times a day. It's just something that becomes a routine, I would think. So that one special person that you can share stuff with, and that's what it was all written about.
That is awesome. So, well, let's talk a little bit about coming up and being influenced and inspired. Who are some of the artists that maybe inspired you as a songwriter?
I would have to. Billy Joel is one guy. I'm a big fan of Steve Perry, Joe Cocker, Jason Mraz. Sheryl Crow, it's a whole bunch of them. But I grew up listening to a lot of Journey and Supertramp when I was younger, and Billy Joel. My parents used to have, my mother liked country, my father liked Buddy Holly and Elvis and Fats Domino. So when I sit down to write, I think it's a blend of everything. Just because I seem to like so much. So sometimes I write on piano, sometimes I write on guitar, and that's how the album came about.
That's awesome. That is so awesome. So let me ask you, you talked about all the influence your mom liked country, and your dad was pretty much, what we would call rock and roll, or I guess oldies now, whatever you want to call it. But with that said, I mean, is that where you get your influence from as far as like your vocal phrasing and your styling from? Because going back and listening to some of your stuff, you have a very, very smooth and soulful voice, and it does kind of remind you of a Joe Cocker kind of sound. But is that where you get that soulful range from?
I would have to say yes. There's so much that there's so much talent out there, right? It's unbelievable. My problem is I like too much stuff. Which is kind of funny. I've had people tell me, Billy, you sound like, Bruce Springsteen. Billy, you sound like Bryan Adams. You sound like Jason Mraz. I'm thinking, well, this is all good. I would think they're all great artists. And sometimes they can't put their finger on it. I write for me first, and then take it to my producer, and end up certain things. So like Calendar Girl, my song Calendar Girl was more of a soul or Motownish song sounding. But yeah, it just comes out, and I just kind of like it the way it comes out. You know, like I don't like changing things because I like to go with my first thought.
Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that at all. Now, when you're sitting down to write a song, Billy, is that something that can just come to you like that, or do you have to be in a certain mood or have a certain setting or a certain feeling?
I like peace and quiet. I like to be on my own when I'm writing, in a dark room or just by myself, no noise, and yeah, I have to be. Yeah, it's like my own world, you know, where I don't hear no phone ringing. It's just by myself. Shut everything off and go sit by the piano or my guitar and just sit there and do it. I usually like to write at nighttime too.
That's pretty awesome. With all of that said, by the way, everybody out there listening here at the Backstage with #RDM, I just want to let you know that you can find all information about Billy at www.billygrima.com. You can find that in the show notes, and also all of his music and everything is available at all major streaming networks such as iTunes, Amazon, and you can also check him out on SoundCloud. But with all that said, Billy, before I let you go today as we wind down on this interview, is there any advice you can give to any up-and-coming singer-songwriters or musicians out there that maybe want to follow in your footsteps?
I would have to say, believe in yourself and don't give up. Do it for you first and do it because you love it. That's first. And that's how I see it. You know, same thing when it comes to doing the videos. I do the same thing. I do it the way I feel. I pass it on to my band, see what they think, but do it for you, and then let the world see.
That's awesome. That's a word spoken by a wise man. Billy, thank you so much for joining us here today. I wish you the best. Maybe in the next couple of months we'll get together and talk a little bit more about your latest album you got coming out. And with all of that said, Billy, once again, I want to say it was a pleasure, and happy gigging to you.
Thank you, and Russell, thank you for having me on your show. Thank you.
Anytime, friend. Billy, take care of yourself, brother. What a great interview with Mr. Billy, and I want to thank him so much for giving me the time of the day and calling us down here and letting us know what's up with his latest projects and everything. And like I told you before, for more information about Billy, you can go to billygrima.com. You can find that link in today's show notes at radiorandomnetwork.com. All right, now what we're going to do is we're going to take a short pause for worthy calls. We'll be back in about 30 seconds or so. And when we come back, I'll be talking to the writer, director, and producer of the documentary, The Girl in the Band, and you're going to love this. Miss Judy Chaikin will be joining me, so stay with us. We'll be right back. Today's show is powered by Gamefly.com. Sign up for a premium free 30-day trial specifically for the listeners of Backstage with #RDM. Just for you, Gamefly is offering a free trial. All you have to do is sign up at GameflyOffer.com/Backstage to start your free trial today. That's GameflyOffer.com/Backstage. All right, my featured guest today on Backstage with #RDM right here on the Radio Random Network. She is a writer, a producer. She's an actor. She is responsible for the girls in the band. I'm talking to none other than Miss Judy Chaikin. How you doing today, Miss Judy?
I'm doing just fine, Russell. How are you?
Doing great. It's great to talk with you today. How's the weather where you're at?
Oh, it is so beautiful outside, I can't tell you. How about where you're at?
Well, we're down here in Louisiana, and it's about, I think it's about 55 degrees outside, and so it's freezing.
Well, neither you nor I know anything about the real cold.
Yeah, you're right about that. You're right about that. All right, well, let's get right into it, Miss Judy. Give us the insight on behind the girls behind the band. What inspired this for you?
Well, The Girls in the Band, as you know, is a story about the history of women in jazz music. And it's a very little-known history because if you ask anybody on the street to name a woman jazz musician, they'd be hard-pressed to give you any names. But I came from a family of musicians, and when I was growing up, I had never heard about these women. And when I learned about one of them about 8 years ago, I said to myself, there was a woman who played jazz? I couldn't believe that. maybe there were more. And that kind of started me on this search. And what I discovered was there was not only more, there were hundreds of women, and they were very successful in their day and age, but their names have been completely forgotten, and they've been completely left out of the history books. So I decided to fix all that.
Well, that's so awesome. That is so awesome. So, with all of that said, and you talking about being from a family of musicians, so as you were growing up, music was a part of your household, I would imagine.
It was a very big part of my household. We all had to take music lessons. I took trumpet and piano lessons, and I even went so far as to play in the band in junior high school, play trumpet. And one brother is a saxophone player, and the other brother is a trumpet player. And my mother was a songwriter. So there was music around us all the time, and a great appreciation for every kind of music.
Right.
And then when I grew up, I married a musician. I married a trumpet player, and was very involved with the jazz world. Loved jazz. Loved big bands more than anything. And that was what shocked me, that I learned there had been some women who had been in big bands, but I never heard about them.
Right. Well, some of them, you're talking about like Melba Liston, who is a trombone player, and also Mary Lou Williams, who is a pianist. But out of all of those in that area, who are some of your favorites?
Well, there's a great trumpet player named Clora Bryant, who I'm sure people never heard about. There was a woman who was a saxophone player who many people thought was the equal of Charlie Parker, and her name was Vi Red. And, of course, there was the great Mary Lou Williams, who did become known because she was a piano player and a composer and an arranger and worked with a lot of the great musicians of her day. So those are some of the women. And my favorite group that I found was the International Sweethearts of Rhythm, which was an all-black band from Mississippi. And they had an enormous amount of talented women on their band. So it was a very, very interesting research time.
That's so awesome. Now, when you were doing this film, the film is highly praised by New York Times and many other media outlets out there. But did you think that the film would be so welcomed and I guess what's the word I'm looking for? Would gain so much achievements?
So much attention? Well,
yeah,
no,
that's it.
I didn't actually. I thought I was making it for a rather small group of people, which was musicians and jazz musicians and maybe jazz students. But as we worked on the film and interesting things started happening, I discovered that what these women were going through in their lives was absolutely parallel to what was going on in the country. So the film began to take on this wider aspect, this kind of sociological history aspect, and it took on a racial aspect, and it took on a women's rights aspect, because all these things were fomenting and developing during the time that these women were trying to work as jazz musicians. So it gained a larger audience than I had imagined at first. And of course now we're very excited because not only have we released a collector's edition of the film, but the film is being shown on many PBS stations in March for Women's History Month.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. That's pretty awesome. And by the way, for everybody listening out there, you can probably pick up a copy or find out how you can pick up a copy by going to thegirlsintheband.com, in which you can find that link in the today's show notes. But with all of that said, now let's talk a little bit about your career and your success. What inspired you to be in the entertainment industry, other than having growing up in a musical family? What inspired you to be so creative, I guess?
Well, I think it all starts in the home. Both my parents were very artistic. My mother, besides being a songwriter, was also a poet and was named the California Poet of the Year back in, I think, 1979. My father was a photographer and loved classical music. So we had this kind of influence in the home and encouragement. You know, most people tell their children not to go into the arts because it's a terrible place and you won't make any money and you won't make a living and you'll be miserable. But and all of that is true. But beyond that, you will also have a wonderfully rich life and a happy life, and you will have contributed something positive to the world. So it was that kind of support all along the way that helped me to fulfill my dreams.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So is there anything in the works, anything new you're going to be working on here shortly? I mean...
Oh, yes. I'm working on a lot of things.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I just finished shooting another documentary. This one, a very small personal documentary about a guy who's a chainsaw artist. You know, he carves works of art out of dead trees. So it's another way to bring some beauty into the world. And I'm also working on a television special, which I cannot name yet because the ink is not dry on the contract.
Understandable. But with all of that said, can you give any advice to anybody that might want to follow in your footsteps?
You know, it's a work that demands your complete passion. You have to be ready for the long haul. It's, as they say, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. And it's taken many, many years for me to get to a place where I have options and people are asking me to do things. But you have to have the passion for it. If you don't want it more than life itself, then it's really going to be a difficult life for you, because the benefits are not always in financial success, but they are in personal and human success. So that's my advice.
That's awesome. That is awesome. For more information, like I said, you can go to thegirlsintheband.com. Miss Judy, it was a pleasure to talk with you today.
Russell, it's been a pleasure to talk with you.
And I just want to say, I don't mean to interrupt you, but the 2 thumbs up, props on the girls in the band. I'm a musician myself. I really appreciate it. Was very appreciated in my home. And we thoroughly enjoyed it. You know, I mean, I guess it's something for all musicians. I mean, every once in a while you get in the business aspect of it, but you always want to learn the history of your craft.
Right.
And I appreciate you for the research and sharing this with the world.
Well, Russell, I have to thank you for that, because that's the kind of comment that I get from a lot of musicians, just thanking me for letting them know about this part of their unknown history.
That is awesome. Like I said, thank you so much for joining me, and you're welcome back anytime, and I hope to talk to you again soon.
All right, Russell. Thanks a lot. You have a good day.
You too, sweetheart.
Okay, bye-bye.
I want to thank Miss Judy for joining me here on the Radio Random Network today on Backstage with #RDM. It was great talking with her about the girls in the band. It was a great documentary, and I encourage everybody to check it out. Check your local listings and see when it's playing, and if you get a chance to check it out, it's very, very, very in depth on the history of jazz and women, and on a very distinctive era in history whenever women wasn't really allowed or wasn't really named, so to speak, to be in fronting a band or featured in a band. It's a great documentary. Go check it out. I give it 10 out of 10. But with all of that said, I want to thank Miss Judy and Mr. Billy for joining me today right here on Backstage with #RDM. For more information about our weekly shows, you can just visit www.radiorandomnetwork.com. You can find more interviews right there on the website. You can sign up for our newsletter. You can connect with us on all social media outlets that we're on, and so much more. If you want to support, there's a link there to tell you so many ways to support and help us out here on the Radio Random Network, whether it be 5 stars on iTunes or Stitcher Radio, or telling a friend, or if you got a little extra money in your pocket, you can donate via PayPal or Patreon. It's up to you. It's not required, but, you know, it does help out. With all of that said, I hope you enjoyed today's episode, and I'll be back next Tuesday with a brand new episode with brand new guest. And real quick before I go, I want to send a big shout out to the Potter family on Twitter. You can follow the show on Twitter at Backstage_RDM, and all my friends and all the shows on that are connected with the Potter and family community. I want to thank each and every one of you for retweeting and sharing and helping us grow our audience even bigger. I mean, even on YouTube, pat on the back, we're already up to over 500 subscribers, and I haven't even checked any other platforms, but I do know YouTube is popping right now, so to speak. But with all of that said, we will be here Friday with the Russell and Mudtooth Show for sure. Friday, it's going to happen. The show will air, so be sure and tune in for that. And with all of that said, I am #RDM Russell Devin McClain. You've been listening to Backstage with #RDM right here on the Radio Random Network. And we will talk to you next Tuesday. Thank you so much for joining me. Till then, God bless.
Tune in every Tuesday at 7:05 p.m. Central Standard Time for a show created for musicians and music lovers alike. Backstage with #RDM. For more information about the hosts, guests, or our other weekly programs, visit RadioRandomNetwork.com.
Thanks for listening.